It started on the outer rim colony of Rho 47, a planet covered in silver forests and glowing rivers. The Human Alliance had sent Commander Ryan Holt to secure the area, train the local alien forces, and prepare them for future conflict. Among the alien troops was a young, proud soldier named Liari, one of the most talented fighters of the Xanthari race. She had violet skin, sharp emerald eyes, and a heart that refused to bow. Liari didn't like humans. She didn't hate them, but she saw them as arrogant. They arrived with their orders and rules, acting like they knew best. She was respected among her own kind, but under human command, she was just another recruit. And that, to her, was an insult. Commander Holt noticed her quickly. She moved like a hunter, sharp and graceful. Her aim was perfect, her reflexes even better. But her eyes always held defiance, especially when he gave orders. The tension built. Day by day, during training, she corrected human officers. During drills, she did things her own way. One day, during a mock battle, she ignored Holt's command to retreat. Instead, she charged forward, broke through the enemy line, and won the objective. Her unit cheered. But Holt did not. Later that evening, in the dusty command tent, Holt called her in. She entered, chin high, shoulders stiff, gaze locked with his. "You disobeyed a direct order," he said calmly. "I won the battle," she answered coldly. "You risked lives. I saved them." There was silence. The air between them thickened like a storm about to break. "You don't understand discipline," Holt finally said. "I don't need discipline when I have instinct. And that instinct will get someone killed," he replied, standing now, taller than her, his voice still quiet but strong. "You're talented, Liari, but talent without discipline is just noise." Her jaw tightened. "Maybe you're just afraid I fight better than your men." "Maybe," he said, stepping closer. "Or maybe I see a soldier wasting her potential just to prove a point." She blinked, surprised at the words. Then he said something she didn't expect. "Tomorrow you and I one-on-one. No weapons, no rank, just a test of control. If you win, I'll give you command of the next mission." She stared at him, lips slightly parted. This human ... He wasn't just strong, he understood her. And he wasn't afraid to challenge her directly. "Agreed," she said, without hesitation. Word of the challenge spread through the camp like fire. Humans and Xanthari gathered the next morning. To watch, the ring was marked by stones, no weapons. Just skill. Liari moved like a shadow, fast, elegant, deadly, but Holt ... He was solid. Every punch she threw, he blocked. Every move she tried to land, he redirected. He wasn't just defending, he was reading her. Their fight lasted minutes. But to the crowd, it felt like hours. She struck fast, twisting, trying to break his balance, but Holt didn't fall. He let her wear herself out. And when she began to slow, he moved. A single sweep of his leg, and she was down. Not hard. Not violent. Just precise. She hit the ground, chest rising and falling, eyes wide. Holt stood over her, offering a hand. She took it. He pulled her up, but said nothing. The crowd was silent. Too. Even the trees seemed to wait. Then she whispered, "You didn't fight to win. You fought to teach me." He nodded once. "Now you understand." That night, Liari sat by herself, staring into the silver flames of a cooking fire. She had never lost a fight before. Not like that, and yet, she didn't feel shame. She felt something else. Respect. But the war wasn't over. And tomorrow, new orders would arrive. Bigger threats. Bigger tests. And for the first time, she was ready to follow her human commander, not out of fear, but choice. The next morning, the camp woke to new orders. A signal had come from the deep forest zone. Unit 9 had gone silent. No transmission. No beacon, no signs of life. Commander Holt stood over the map, frowning. Unit 9 had been investigating a strange alien energy source buried underground. Something old. Something dangerous. Liari stood near him, armor strapped, silent but focused. She was different now, not soft but calm. She waited for his plan instead of interrupting. The lesson from their fight had settled deep inside her. We move in a team of 5, Holt said, pointing to the path through the forest. No vehicles, too loud, we go silent, fast and ready. He looked at her. You'll take point. She nodded. No smart remarks. Just acceptance. Holt noticed the change but said nothing. Trust was forming slowly, like steel forged in heat. Moved out before sunrise. Holt, Liari, and 3 other soldiers, 2 humans, 1 Zenthari. The forest was thick with silver-leaved trees that shimmered like glass. Birds with glowing wings flew overhead. The place was beautiful, but something was wrong. Too quiet. Liari raised a fist, signaling a halt. Her ears twitched slightly. She crouched, eyes scanning the brush. Movement, she whispered. Holt moved beside her. How many? She closed her eyes, listening. 5, maybe 6, but they single quotes low to the ground. Not walking upright. That wasn't normal. The team fanned out slowly. Liari led them through the trees like a ghost, every step light and calculated. Then they found the remains of Unit 9's camp, tents torn apart, weapons melted, armor shredded. But no blood. No bodies. Just rag marks in the mud. They didn't run, Holt said, examining a shattered helmet. They were taken. Whatever did this wasn't normal, Liari muttered. She picked up a piece of black stone, cracked and pulsing faintly with blue light. This is not from our planet. The team stiffened. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the forest. A voice, Zenthari. Alive, Liari gasped. Holt raised his hand. We move, now. They followed the sound quickly, weapons drawn. The scream came again, weaker this time. Then they saw the pit, a deep hole in the ground with strange black roots wrapping around it like claws. At the bottom, one of the missing soldiers, barely breathing. Tangled in the roots, Liari didn't wait. She jumped. Liari! Holt called out, but she was already inside the pit, slicing through the roots with her blade. The roots moved alive. One whipped toward her. She rolled and slashed. Holt slid down after her, covering her side. I told you to wait. He growled. And I told you, instinct. She snapped back, breathless. Together, they freed the soldier. The roots screamed, yes, screamed and shook the pit. Holt grabbed Liari's hand. Climb now. The team above pulled them out just in time. The roots below turned red hot and sank into the earth. They dragged the wounded soldier to safety. His body was marked with strange glowing patterns. Not wound symbols. I don't know what's happening here, Holt said, panting. But this isn't a simple recon mission anymore. Liari stared at the pit, then at the sky. We woke something. As they returned to camp with the wounded man, silence filled the team. Everyone had seen the pit, the roots, the glow. Something ancient had been buried in the planet, and it wasn't happy to be disturbed. That night, Liari didn't sit alone. She sat near Holt, not close but not distant either. There was a sense of unity now, even if neither of them spoke it. A loud dot in her heart, she knew the forest would strike again. But this time, she wouldn't face it alone. She had her team, and her commander, Asterisk. Back at the outpost, alarms rang through the halls. Engineers scanned the remains of the fallen machine while medics tended to Nathan's injuries. He had taken a few hit scratches, a bruised rib, but refused the stretcher. I've had worse, he said with a shrug. Tira stood silently nearby, arms crossed, watching everything. She didn't say much, but her mind was racing. That war machine was buried years ago. It should have stayed offline forever, yet it had walked again. High Command contacted the outpost soon after. The human general on the screen spoke quickly, his tone sharp. That machine was supposed to be scrapped. Why is it active? Tyra stepped forward. We believe the underground systems in this region are waking up. The war tech may be reacting to leftover command signals or corrupted energy sources. Nathan added, if one reactivated, more might follow. The general didn't like that answer. You are not authorized to investigate old war sites. We'll send a specialist team. Until then, you are to secure the area and report findings, nothing more. The screen went black. Nathan turned to Tyra. They're afraid. Tyra nodded. They should be. But she wasn't going to wait. She had already sent scouts out to scan nearby valleys. If more of the machines were waking, she had to know now. Hours later, one of her scouts returned with news. They had found an underground tunnel system leading beneath the valley. Strange lights pulsed through the walls. And a hum just like the one near the war machine. Tyra stood at the edge of the cave entrance with Nathan beside her. You sure about this? He asked. No, she admitted. But I'm not going to sit around while more weapons crawl out of the ground. They entered together. The tunnel was cold and damp. Ancient walls lined with half-dead lights flickered as they passed. Symbols from the old war covered the steel warnings in the corral. Language. Tyra traced one with her finger. Do not awaken the buried flame, she read. Nathan frowned. What does that mean? Something we were never supposed to build, she said softly. They moved deeper. Then they found it. A massive chamber, hidden beneath the surface, full of sealed pods. Some were broken open, others still glowed faintly. Inside were machines, different from the one above, sleeker, sharper, more advanced. Nobody knows these even existed, Nathan whispered. Tyra's voice turned cold. That's because they were built in secret by a small faction of Kirel who didn't believe the war would ever end. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the shadows. You should not have come here. Tyra raised her weapon. Nathan did too. From behind a control console stepped an old Kirel male, wearing a long dark cloak. His skin was pale, and his eyes pulsed with cybernetic light. Tyra recognized him immediately. Commander Valen, she said. You vanished during the last year of the war. I did not vanish, he said. I stayed behind to prepare. Prepare for what? For when the humans break the peace, he growled. And now they walk among our leaders, giving orders, taking ground. Nathan stepped forward. Peace was signed by both sides. Valen pointed at him. You may have fooled the politicians, but I built this army for the day we'd take back control. Tyra's anger rose. You built these without permission, without honor. I built them to protect us from weakness, he snapped. And now I will finish what I started. He pressed a button. All around them, pods hissed open, metal creaked. Eyes lit red. Nathan grabbed Tyra's hand. Run. But she didn't move. She turned to face Valen. No, I won't run from this. For the first time, Nathan saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before. Not pride. Not control. Determination. She turned to him and said, I may have thought I could lead with orders alone, but now I understand. She raised her weapon. We lead with choices, not fear. Asterisk. The air in the underground chamber filled with steam as more pods opened. The war machines stepped out tall, armored, glowing with red energy. They weren't just drones. They moved like they could think. Like they were angry. Tyra pulled Nathan behind a pillar as blasts of heat scorched the floor where they had just stood. Valen's voice echoed through the chamber. You can't stop them. They are bound to the core. They obey no one but me. Nathan checked his weapon. How many of these things are down here? Tyra peeked around the pillar. Too many. He looked at her. So, any ideas, Commander? She narrowed her eyes. Yes, we destroy the control link. She pointed toward a tall column pulsing with red lights. That's the core. It's feeding them orders. Nathan didn't hesitate. Let's move. They split up. Tyra took the left. sliding between broken metal and debris. Nathan took the right, drawing the machine's attention. He fired quick shots, just enough to distract, not to fight. Tira moved fast. Every step was timed. Every breath measured. She had trained her whole life for this. But it wasn't just skill pushing her now, it was purpose. Nathan gave her space. He knew when to lead and when to follow. He trusted her completely. She reached the core's base, dodged a blast, and opened the side panel. The code was old Kirel tech, almost forgotten, but not to her. Her fingers moved fast across the interface. Alarms screamed. Above. One machine noticed her. It leapt forward. But before it reached her, Nathan tackled it mid-air. They rolled across the floor, crashing into another pod. Nathan groaned but stood back up fast. "You owe me for that," he shouted. "I'll buy you a drink if we live." She called back. With one final code input, the core blinked, then shut down. All at once, the red lights in the machine's eyes dimmed. They stopped moving. Some collapsed. Others stood still, powerless. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Valen stared in disbelief. Tira stepped out, weapon aimed at him. "It's over." "No," he growled. "You've just made us weak again. You've sided with them." "I've sided with peace," she said. "And with what's right." He reached for a weapon, but Nathan shot it from his hand. "You really should have stayed in retirement." Nathan muttered. Soldiers from the outpost arrived minutes later, alerted by Tira's emergency signal. They secured the chamber and took Valen into custody. The machines were disabled, the lab locked down. Tira stood beside Nathan as the soldiers finished their work. "So," he said, "still think control means shouting orders?" She smiled faintly. "No, you showed me something better." He raised a brow. "Really? What's that?" "Trust." She looked out over the quiet chamber. "I used to believe leadership meant doing everything myself. Never bending, never showing doubt. But you taught by standing beside people, not above them," he chuckled. "Didn't expect to be your teacher. You didn't try to be. That's what made it real." They walked back to the cruiser. Slowly, both quiet. At the surface, the sun was rising. It was peaceful. For the first time since she arrived at the outpost, Tira didn't feel the need to prove herself. She had already done it, but not alone. With him. Asterisk. High Command was not pleased. The human generals arrived first, followed by Kirel officials in long robes. Tira and Nathan stood side by side in the outpost's central hall while the council argued behind closed doors. "You broke protocol," said one human admiral. "You entered a forbidden zone," snapped a Kirel elder. "You exposed technology that should have stayed buried," said another. Tira listened without flinching. Nathan leaned toward her and whispered, "They're more upset about paperwork than waking war machines." She smirked slightly but didn't speak. After 2 hours, the council called them in. The chamber was full. Everyone sat in silence as the Herul representative stood. "Commander Tiravel, you acted outside your orders. You endangered your team and made a critical decision without approval. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Tira stepped forward calmly. Double quotes, "Yes, I did everything you said." Gasps echoed. Some shifted uncomfortably. "But," she continued, "I stopped the threat none of you even knew existed. If I had followed protocol, hundreds could have died. Nathan Cole and I worked together to end it. Not as human and Kirel, as soldiers, as leaders." Nathan added, "You sent us here to keep peace. That's what we did." Silence followed. Finally, the human admiral stood. "You may have broken rules, but you prevented disaster. We won't punish success." The Kirel council nodded slowly. Tira was surprised. She had expected punishment, or at least removal from her post. Instead, they said something unexpected. "You've both proven that cooperation is not just possible, it's stronger than control." After the meeting, Tira and Nathan walked Outside together. The sky was clear, the wind soft. You think they really mean that? Nathan asked. Tira gave a small shrug. Maybe. Or maybe they just don't want the people to know how close we came to losing everything. He nodded. Either way, we did the right thing. Tira paused. I don't think I could have done it without you. You could have, he replied. But you didn't have to. She smiled at that. Later, that evening, a quiet gathering was held outside the outpost gates. Soldiers from both species stood in a circle. They lit small fires. It wasn't an official ceremony, just something the soldiers wanted. Tira was handed a small token, a badge made from parts of the fallen war machine, carved with both human and Kirel symbols. Nathan received one too. A soldier said, for leadership, not just command. Tira held the token in her palm, staring at the light dancing on its surface. She looked at Nathan. I used to think being a commander meant being uncheckable, untouchable. And now? He asked. Now I know it means being human, she sighed. He laughed. I'll take that as a compliment. She nodded. The firelight warmed her face, but it was something deeper that warmed her chest. Respect, not taken, earned, shared, asterisk. A week passed. The outpost returned to calm. The old war machines had been buried again, this time with permanent shutdown cores and warning beacons placed all around the valley. Valen was taken into custody, awaiting trial for war crimes. His name would not be remembered with honor, but Tiravel's name. It was beginning to spread. The story of what she and Nathan had done reached other outposts, human and Kirel alike. Soldiers talked about it in the mess halls, in training yards, and even in private broadcasts sent home. Then, the message came. Tira was promoted. Not just as commander of the joint outpost, but as leader of a new mission, a deep space diplomatic team, designed to build trust between former enemies on new frontiers. She was to select her own crew, shape her own rules, and answer only to the High Council of both species. Nathan found her standing outside the landing pad that morning, reading the orders with a thoughtful look. You're going to take it, he said. She nodded slowly. It's not about me anymore. It's about what we started. He smiled. Good. So when do we leave? She looked at him with surprise. You want to come? He raised an eyebrow. You think I'm letting you go off without backup? She shook her head with a smile. You're not backup anymore. You're part of the command. Co-command? He asked. She held out her hand. Partners. He took it. Their new ship arrived the next day, sleek, silver, and freshly built with both Kirel and human designs. It was small, fast, and meant for exploration, not war. A symbol of peace. The crew gathered near the ramp, half Kirel, half human. All of them had volunteered. All had heard the story of the mission that began in the Valley of Lost Machines, and all wanted to follow the ones who led it. Tira looked at the group. This time, she didn't bark orders. She didn't demand silence. She simply said, we go forward together, not as one race, not as one army, but as something better. And they followed. As the ship lifted into the sky, leaving behind the world where it all began. Tira watched the stars ahead. She once thought control was power. Now she understood. True power came from trust, from unity, and from knowing when to lead and when to let someone step in. Nathan joined her at the front of the ship. Where to first? She smiled. Wherever the stars need a better story. They flew on. Two former enemies, now partners, leading the future together.